Carolina's backs are now squarely against the wall. Time to find out how much fight this team has.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, December 20th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch of the day. It's great to be together. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, the Locked On Tar Heels insiders, and of course our Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. Great to be together. Here we go. It is a 3-show Friday. Yes, we got this episode, just kind of our standard Friday episode. We'll get ready for the game. I'll introduce you to UCLA. We'll talk about our weekend whip around, some football transfers that have committed. I mean, they're coming in droves now. We've got another episode where Denora Searcy joins me, and we just hadn't had a chance yet to unpack all the Bill Belichick of it all. So that's an episode that he and I are doing. And then also did a crossover episode with Locked On UCLA's Zachary Anderson Yoxheimer. Yes, we call him Yox at Locked On. So that's fun, just getting to know UCLA from his standpoint and sharing about the Tar Heels as well. So lots of great content for you to consume this weekend ahead of Carolina and UCLA tomorrow in New York at Madison Square Garden. And that's exactly where we start. Oh, one other very quick thing. I'm so sorry. Coach Rob and his Milligan University Buffaloes team on Thursday, they played Western Carolina. Milligan is an NAIA school. Western Carolina is a D1 school. Milligan was up at the half. Coach texted me that with a minute 36 to go, they had a shot. They took a shot to tie the game with 96 seconds left. Missed, and then it just ended up losing by 9 free throws and all that, at the end of the game. But man, what a performance. Coach Rob, we're so proud of you. The Locked On Tar Heels community, we're here with you. We support you. Okay, here we go. UCLA. I cannot stress enough how wildly important this game is. Earlier this week, if you're an everydayer with us, you recall, I said that this is do or die week because it was Carolina's last 2 opportunities for a marquee non-conference win. Bungled the first one, did not get the win against Florida. And so that means now, like if you get that Florida win, you still desperately need this Florida win or the UCLA win to offset the other losses. But it would have been made it a little more cherry on top rather than like desperation mode that we're now in because of the loss to Florida. And that's where we sit at this point. Literally, Carolina's only notable win is Dayton. And make no mistake, that is a big-time impressive win. Dayton has continued to climb in the net rankings, and so that is like firmly a quad 1 victory, and that's fortunate. But Carolina does have 5 losses. Thankfully, they're all quad 1 losses. That's good. If you're going to lose, you'd rather than be quad 1, but it's still 5 losses, and that's where we're at. So that means this game, Carolina has to be so ready to go, has to value every possession. It has to feel like Game 7 of the World Series, do or die. You have to do whatever you got to do to win this basketball game because after this, literally the only non-conference game left is Campbell, and then it's ACC the rest of the way. And Campbell's not, that's several, like a week away or something like that. I think it's actually on 8 days away. I think it's on the next Sunday. So you throw everything you can at this game to win it. I don't care. You have to find it within you to be so ready to go. But here's the thing. There's this weird balance that happens because sometimes you get in this mode. Like I referenced Game 7 of the World Series or the Super Bowl or Game 7 of the NBA Finals, whatever it is. Sometimes guys get so worked up in those kind of moments that they're not themselves. I would almost rather you try to mentally trick yourself into, oh, it's just another game. But at the same time, you got to understand the gravity of what's happening on Saturday. I think, RJ is going to understand that. He'll be able to communicate it to guys. So it's got to be pressure packed, but not so much that it overwhelms you, not so much that it incapacitates you from doing what you need to do. Play free, play together, play smart. It's just do those things, and you can win and will win this basketball game. But you got to come out ready for a dogfight from the tip. That's what we've not seen, and that's what we need to see. Speaking of, you know what I think Carolina needs to do in this game? We'll talk about UCLA starting lineup here in a little bit. But just like Carolina, UCLA ain't trotting out in these 7-footers. They've got a little bit more size in the backcourt than Carolina, and we'll look at that. But front court is pretty comparable, if we're being honest. Nobody in UCLA's starting lineup is bigger than 6'9". So, you know what? Let's go to work inside. Tuesday against Florida. Then Alan Lubin had a post up, and he finished it. He completed it. Carolina scored in the paint, not off of penetration. Unreal. This is an opportunity to try some of that. How do you get the front court involved so that the backcourt has more space? I've compared it, and I'll continue to compare it to, you can't just, in football, you can't just throw the ball 50 times a game and, or you can't just run the ball 60 times a game, or they're going to load the box and dare you to throw it. Same thing. If there's literally nothing going on in the front court, I'm not even worried about you. I'm just going to hound the backcourt around and make sure they don't beat me. I mean, it's just a novel concept. Let's go to work inside. As for UCLA, it's only their 4th time playing away from home. They've played 1 true road game in Big Ten play. The Big Ten has already played 2 games each, 1 home, 1 road. And then they've had 2 other neutral games. And then this is it. For Carolina, this is like their 7th game away from home. It's crazy. So that could be an opportunity for Carolina to be a little more comfortable in a different kind of confines. It's also nice. I know there's a lot of roster turnover, but Carolina just played in Madison Square Garden 2 years ago. UCLA is coming across the country. There's possibilities there. All right, this game. Carolina, UCLA, CBS Sports Classic. We'll give some CBS Sports Classic history later at Madison Square Garden for the 2nd time in the last 3 years. It is tomorrow, Saturday, December 21st at 3 p.m. It's the first of the 2 games, the second one being Ohio State and Kentucky. Fully expect the Wildcats to win that game. Obviously, since it's the CBS Sports Classic, this game is on CBS. No FanDuel line yet, but Ken Pom favors the Bruins by 2. Series record all time. This is the 15th meeting. You probably would not guess it, but this series is wildly lopsided. Carolina is 11-3 all time against UCLA, including winning the last 6 straight. The last time they met up was in the Sweet 16 in 2022. You might recall right before Carolina then beat St. Peter's in the Elite Eight to go. Anybody remember who they played in the Final Four? Doesn't really stand out as any meaningful. I can't keep a straight face making that joke. Anyway, Carolina won that most recent meeting 73-66. Mick Cronin is UCLA's coach. He's in his 6th year, known for his defense, his teams all the way back to his days at Cincinnati. That's just the calling card of a Mick Cronin team, and the same is true this year for UCLA. Right now, the Bruins are 18th in the AP poll. They're 12th in the net. This is very much a quad 1 game. So another opportunity to get a quad 1 win or to fall in 1-6 in quad 1 opportunities. They're 13th at Ken Pom. Their offense is 55th in offensive efficiency, but their defense, as I just alluded to, is 4th in defensive efficiency. So it's kind of strength on strength with Carolina's offense against UCLA's defense, and weakness on weakness, UCLA's offense against Carolina's defense. Which of those 4 units wins the day is probably what wins this game. And I know that's probably like, well, duh, Isaac. But you know what I mean? Like when you've got 2 similar units going up against each other in that regard, who can do something a little bit different or a little bit spectacular? Can Carolina's defense rise to the occasion? If so, yeah, good things could happen. Results this far for UCLA right now, they are 10-1. Their best non-conference win, Arizona is the only notable one. They've played a bunch of cupcakes outside of that. They did win both their Big Ten games, hosting Washington and Oregon. True road game. That's a nice win for them. Their only loss was by 8 to New Mexico on a neutral floor. So there's that. And that was the second game of the season. So they're on a 9-game winning streak right now. Usual starters for UCLA, Dylan Andrews, 6'2" guard, 180. Tyler Bilodeau, the leading scorer, 6'9" forward, 230 pounds. Sky Clark, their starting guard, 6'3", 210. Eric Daly, who's kind of a guard forward, 6'8", 230. And then Kobe Johnson, the USC transfer, big part of that defensive stop, is 6'6", 200 pounds. I'm really interested to see what they do with him, because you've got Dylan Andrews and Sky Clark at 6'2" and 6'3. You've got Tyler Bilodeau and Eric Daly at 6'9" and 6'8. And then you've got Johnson, who can kind of be this defensive stopper. Is he guarding Seth Trimble, which would be kind of the natural progression height-wise? Or do they say, nah, like a lot of other teams, we're not going to let RJ Davis beat us, so we're going to put Kobe Johnson on RJ. I think that's probably what happens. Watch closely to see who Kobe Johnson guards coming out of things. And obviously they'll probably switch, as most teams do now. But who is Kobe Johnson's primary defensive assignment? That is going to be an interesting storyline and nugget in this game. Side note, there are 3 games in which Lazar Stevanovic, a 6'7" guard, has started instead of Dylan Andrews. That would be bad for the Heels because it would give UCLA even more height. So I'll see what Mick Cronin does there. In terms of players to watch, Bilodeau and Eric Daly, those 2 front court players, are their 2 leading scorers. And the next 2, just under double digits, both averaging 9-something a game, are Dylan Andrews and Sebastian Mack. However, Sebastian Mack is questionable to go. He didn't play in their last game against Prairie View A&M, so we'll look out for that. One last thing before we move on here. I'm always looking at my record book, which, by the way, shout out, or a moment to shout out. Is that what I'm looking for? Sure. Why not? The Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, where you get free and direct and instant access to all of my record books, my stats, my charts, my data, which I'm always keeping up to date and all that. And so I say that to say, RJ Davis, I'm always checking, like, is anybody getting close to a new record? RJ Davis has 296 career threes. The all-time leader at Carolina is actually somebody else on the bench, Marcus Page, with 299. So RJ needs 3 threes to tie Marcus for number 1 all-time at Carolina in made threes, and needs 4 of them to not only be the new record holder, but the first ever Tar Heel to make 300 threes in his career. So obviously that's going to happen hopefully very soon, given how RJ shot this year. Maybe not, but it'd be really nice if it could happen at Madison Square Garden on Saturday. Now, Carolina, speaking of, has been struggling from 3. It's time to turn that around, man. So we got that and much more coming up in the Four Corners preview. We'll get to that right after I tell you about Rocket Mortgage. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That has definitely happened to a lot of people I know. They had a few subscriptions, didn't realize they were paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy for them to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money, it's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings together everything in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions, reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. Going to college basketball games during the holidays, man, it's absolutely perfect. The atmosphere is fun. You got people dressed up like Santa. Well, 2 years ago when CBS Sports Classic was at Madison Square Garden, I was right there, and it was such a cool experience with all the New York Christmas stuff all around. And honestly, any live event at the holidays, how cool is it? On that same trip, we took our kids to see the Rockettes. Well, here's what's cool. Game Time has tickets for all of that and so much more. They're focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better and can be the perfect gift. I've already bought some Christmas gifts using Game Time this year. You should too. Check it out. In fact, you want to make a last-minute trip up to New York, go to the CBS Sports Classic? I found tickets as cheap as $64 each. That's for both games, so $32 a game, basically. Lower bowl, you can get in for as cheap as $124. That's marked as Game Time's super deal. Lots of great seats available. So take the guesswork out of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. Time for our Four Corners preview, where I give you four very specific things I'm watching for in this game that will probably influence how things turn out. Number one, it's time to hit some threes. Here's what I mean. In the month of December, Carolina has played 4 basketball games: Alabama, Georgia Tech, LaSalle. Who am I missing? Florida on Tuesday, of course. In those 4 games, the Tar Heels have gone 25 for 111 from 3. Quick math tells you that's less than a quarter percent, right? That's less than 25%. Yeah, 22.5% to be exact. In those 4 games, 3 of them, Carolina has only made 5 threes. That's not good. The only game in which they hit more, they made 10 against LaSalle. So the 3 high major opponents they've played, Alabama, Georgia Tech, and Florida, they only made 5 threes. And that, I guess if you're only taking 6 or 7 threes, that's great. But Carolina's attempting, 25 or more threes a game, which is fine. That's the makeup of this team, but they're not hitting. Part of that is RJ is struggling. Part of that is the one game where they made 10. It was because Tyson made 5 of those 10. And the expectation is that he would be there, he would show up, and he'd kill it. It's not happening. And other guys aren't stepping up either. North Carolina, if they want to be successful, is going to have games where they hit well from outside. This is a great time to do it. Number 2 in the Four Corners preview. Are the Tar Heels going to be able to score not just from 3, but period? Here's what I mean. As I already said, UCLA's defense is very, very good. I gave you their efficiency numbers. Let me just give you their straight up point totals. They're only allowing 56.8 points a game. That's 5th in the nation right now, UCLA's points allowed average. Of their 11 opponents, they have held 5 of them to 50 points or less. Of their 11 opponents, they have held 7 of them to 60 or less. And nobody, hear me say nobody, has scored more than 75 points against UCLA this year. Carolina is going to have to do that based on how their defense has been performing this season if they want to have any hope of winning this game. Now, that said, similar to Florida, it's a little hard to know what to make of UCLA because of their schedule. 7 of their 11 games have been of the quad 4 variety. By comparison, this is going to be Carolina's 7th quad 1 game. The difference is, though, UCLA is winning a bunch of their games, Carolina's not. However, if UCLA had played Carolina's schedule, or if Carolina had played UCLA's schedule, what would it look like? Does that make sense? And so it's hard to know what to make of it. Who really knows? But gonna watch to see if Carolina is able to score against this notable UCLA defense. Number 3, the pace of this game, and whoever's able to control it probably comes out your winner. Here's what I mean. Carolina, you know that they're trying to play fast, get up and down, get a bunch of possessions, and get the ball in the net. They are 3rd in the country in adjusted tempo, basically, which looks at how many possessions are you getting game after game after game. UCLA, on the other hand, Carolina's 3rd. UCLA is 259th in adjusted tempo. They're trying to slow this thing down, not have as many possessions, be deliberate, kind of play that tough defense as I was talking about, which again is a staple of Mick Cronin. So who wins this pace tug of war? Is UCLA able to slow North Carolina down the way Virginia has often been able to do through the years? Or will Carolina be able to speed up UCLA? Part of that or not just part of it, a lot of that is going to be predicated on Carolina's ability to force live ball turnovers, the way they've been doing quite a bit. 3 of Carolina's last 4 games, if I'm remembering correctly, they have gotten double-digit steals. That's the way you can get the pace up in your favor. Is just run, steal, get out and go. It's going to be tough, but Carolina's got to work hard to establish their pace of this game. And then finally, number 4. You are going to probably want to slap me for saying this, but unfortunately, it continues to be a storyline, so I'm going to continue to say it until Carolina starts to get it right consistently. The start of this game. Can Carolina avoid digging that massive hole that they keep digging in the first half for themselves? Literally, if Carolina could just simply not get down by 8 or more points in the first half, it would be the first time against a high major opponent this season that they've done that. Yikes. That's gross. Now, obviously, that is like the least thing. I'm hoping that Carolina can not only not get in a big hole, but could actually get out and get a lead. Start with your pants on fire. You know, I've joked all week a little bit and on Twitter about having the scoreboard say UCLA 50, Carolina 30 at the tip of the game so that Carolina plays with that urgency, man. That's what we're looking for and what Coach Rob and I talked about on yesterday's show. Can Carolina play 40 minutes of second half? That's what has to happen. I don't know what they got to do to get in that mentality, but man, the fellas got to be ready for it. If not, they're going to be in another hole and you're just not going to be able to dig yourself out of that. Maybe once or twice, but not consistently, as we've seen with Kansas and Michigan State and this week, Florida. So to that point, is this just a mindset thing, or will we see any physical changes from Carolina's personnel or scheme? For example, will we see any starting lineup changes? Will we see any changes in who comes off the bench first? Will we see any wrinkles, whether defensively or trying to do something differently offensively? I don't know, but those are the kinds we're looking for to see how things turn out. Now, this is in the CBS Sports Classic. Carolina has played very well. In fact, they've got the best record all time of the 4 teams. I want to give you a little CBS Sports Classic history where the numbers stand, and the Bill Belichick effect is already having a big impact on Carolina's recruiting. I'll update you on that, plus the weekend whip around coming up in just a second. But first, let's talk about the college football playoff on TNT. It's that time of year tonight. Actually, I almost said tomorrow, but it's tonight because there's 1 game tonight and 3 games tomorrow. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins tomorrow, December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T. That's 11 a.m. Eastern. That'll lead into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs, that's SMU, battling the Penn State Nittany Lions up in Pennsylvania at noon. Following that, the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern there in Austin. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Just a couple numbers on the CBS Sports Classic before we look at a little bit of football news and the weekend whip around. This is the second time in the last 3 years that the CBS Sports Classic has been at Madison Square Garden. Interestingly, though, it's the first 2 times it had never been there before. And I hope you remember what happened last time Carolina played in this game. They played Ohio State. There you go. And there was that nice Pete Nance buzzer-beating shot to send this game into overtime where Carolina ultimately won. As I just said a little bit ago, Carolina has the best winning percentage of the 4 teams in this event. The Tar Heels are 6-4 all-time. UCLA, on the other hand, has the worst record. They are 3-6 all-time. Remember, there was a couple years where not everybody competed because of COVID. That's why Carolina's played 1 more game. This is the 3rd meeting between these 2 teams in the CBS Sports Classic. Carolina won the first 2 of them, so that is a good sign for today, or tomorrow's game, I should say. And I didn't realize this until I was doing a little bit of my prep for the show. For the first time, the CBS Sports Classic is also including the CBS Sports Classic HBCU Showcase. That's going to take place next Saturday, December 28th. It'll be North Carolina Central versus NCANT, and then Howard against Hampton. So really cool to expand these offerings. All right, let's turn our attention now to football. Carolina got 4 transfer commitments on Thursday, now up to 7, and it's great stuff there. I want to, before I mention those names, go back to Monday. Coach Belichick was on Pat McAfee's show again, and he said something really interesting that I think we're starting to see play out already, and is why I want to lead in with it. He said, quote, "We're selling the program. Quite honestly, we have a lot of players and agents coming to us saying they want to be part of the program. Quote, is there a spot for us? End quote. A lot of the agents representing players in the transfer portal are ones that we dealt with in the National Football League. A lot of those relationships are carrying over into college football." You catch how important that is? Bill Belichick, because of who he is and where he's been, already has relationships with these agents that are wanting to send their players to a place they know is going to prepare them for where they're trying to get, which is the NFL. Now, Bill Belichick has not yet shown the ability to do that at the college football level, but not for lack of trying. It's just simply he just started. And these agents, though, they already trust him because they have seen how he develops players to be the very best they can be. And so they're wanting to get their young men. So it's great to hear that those relationships are carrying over into college football. To that point, earlier in the week, Carolina had 3 other transfer portal commitments. That's South Carolina tight end Connor Cox. He's 6'6", 251. Delaware defensive lineman Melkart Abu-Jaude. He's 6'5", 260. I think we mentioned him on yesterday's show. And then Holy Cross offensive lineman Christo Kelly. He's 6'4", 305. So love to see it. And Coach Belichick had talked about this. We're going to prioritize, or maybe it was Michael Lombardi, the GM, that had talked about it. We're going to prioritize the lines and quarterback. And that's clearly what they're doing. Both of those, 2 of those linemen, and honestly, the tight end, you can think of as a lineman as well. And then on Thursday, 4 more commits. And man, you're starting to see guys maybe from some programs that you wouldn't often expect to. Adam Samaha, a Michigan transfer. He's a kicker. Michigan's kicker earlier in the week said he was coming back. And so it just makes sense. Like, Samaha needs to get out and go somewhere else. And what I loved is he changed his profile picture on Twitter to a picture of himself at center court in the Smith Center as a little buddy. Man, that's cool. Love that. I didn't find or read or hear the backstory on that. I guess I need to try to do some sleuthing and find that out. But really cool. And so excited for him to get in and get going. Miles McVay, old offensive tackle from Alabama. Hear this dude's size, 6'6", 342. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. And that's what you want to see. High level SEC dudes that have been in those programs coming over and coming to be a Tar Heel. Again, prioritizing the offensive line and defensive line. That's great. Multiple of the linemen had pulled out. A couple of them have already come back. And then you're getting, we already mentioned Christo Kelly, now McVay as well. And then on the D-line, in addition to Abu-Jaude, you get CJ Mims, who's a defensive lineman, 6'2", 296 from ECU. He had initially actually committed to Wake. And Carolina flipped him. That's great stuff. He's got 2 seasons of eligibility left. And then the final one I want to mention is Ryan Brown, a quarterback from Purdue. He's 6'4", 210. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. Didn't really play much this year, but had a great performance against a ranked Illinois team. And so he's got some tools, man. It's all there. I'm really curious to see what happens, frankly, with the entire roster this offseason. But the quarterback room is really interesting. Obviously, Connor Harrell has already entered the transfer portal, but you've got Max Johnson, who's going to be healing from his injury. You've got Jacoby Criswell, the incumbent starter. You've got Bryce Baker, who reconfirmed his commitment to Carolina earlier this week. And now you've got Ryan Brown coming in from Purdue. I don't know if it's like he's our guy or if he's just like, hey, that is depth at quarterback and we're still looking. I don't know. But I'm really curious to see what happens with these quarterbacks. All right, let's get to our weekend whip around, and then we're going to get out of here. Obviously, as transfer portal news continues or staffing news continues in football, we'll have much more on that. And a reminder, check out today's one of the other episodes today with Denoris Cersei. All right, weekend whip around. Ain't much going on. I'll just go ahead and tell you now, so it's going to be quick. The ladies basketball team on Wednesday, we didn't get a chance to talk about this because Coach Rob and I recorded before the game, but the guys lost to Florida in the Jumpman Invitational. Well, the women got some measure of revenge on Wednesday night, just drubbing the Gators 77-57. A nice bounce back because remember the ladies had lost to Georgia Tech in their ACC opener over the weekend at home. And Georgia Tech's ranked, they were 25th in the nation at the time. So this is another, it's a nice bounce back and it's a nice balanced attack as Carolina's ladies continue to do this season. 12 different Tar Heels scored. 8 of them had 5 or more points, man. Good luck scouting that, right? If you're opposing coaches, that's encouraging. As part of that, nobody played more than 26 minutes in this game. Maria Gakdeng led the way with 14 points, chipped in 8 rebounds as well. Ladies are next in action tomorrow against Norfolk State. That's on ACC Network Extra at noon. And by the way, after that, Carolina has ACC play the rest of the way. They'll be down at Miami to kick off the main chunk of ACC play next Sunday. Wrestling finally back in action after multiple weeks off. They're actually down in Nashville, Tennessee this weekend at the Collegiate Wrestling Duels. Ohio State at 3 on Saturday, I should mention. Iowa State at 5, and then Lock Haven, which is actually from up in like the central part of Pennsylvania. I've actually been to their campus, randomly enough. That's at 7 p.m. So lots of great matchups for the wrestling team this weekend. And then after this action on Saturday, both basketball teams and wrestling in action, literally nothing on Carolina's athletic calendar until next Saturday, which is the bowl game. So get ready for all of that. All right, guys, great way to wrap up the weekend or wrap up the week and head into the weekend. We will have our live reaction podcast after the men's game tomorrow, win or lose. We'll either party or we'll have one of our therapy sessions, which we've already had too many of this season. So unfortunately, we know how to do it a little bit too well. But my goodness, they have to get this win. Whatever you got to do, win this game. If you haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube or audio, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders or Discord, man, we'd love to have you there. The links for both are in the show notes. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow after the game. But until then, peace.